Hi friends, welcome to Carrie's Culinary Crafts, where we talk all things food. And today I have a video for you. I am doing a voiceover because there's a lot of people in my house. There's a lot of commotion going on in the background. So I just thought I would turn on the camera, film what I had to do today since I had the time to do it, and I will just do the voiceover. The first thing I'm doing, my granddaughter is here this weekend and she absolutely loves fruit. Any kinds of fruit, it doesn't matter. Um, and my sons do, and I do, so it's not going to go to waste. So I figured I would just go ahead and make a nice fruit salad. And the first thing I'm putting in here are 2 pounds of strawberries. Unfortunately, these strawberries were a little bit tart. I was pretty sad by that. So you will see that I will add some sweetener later. But I'm going ahead and cutting up all of these strawberries. And I also purchased some blueberries, which were perfect. They are like perfectly sweet. They are wonderful. And there goes the blueberries. I'm telling you, these blueberries are probably the best that I ever got from the store. They were so good, so juicy, and so sweet. And then the last thing that I'm going to add to this fruit salad is a cantaloupe. And this cantaloupe also um, is just like the blueberries, perfectly sweet and soft. And here I have some peach juice that I had canned up from 2 years ago. I bought a bushel of peaches, and this is what I'm using as my sweetener in there. I'm just going to put a little bit of the peach juice in, and then I'm going to give it a little taste test to see if that was enough sweetness or not. But like I said, these strawberries were really tart, which I was so surprised about because they looked really red and looked really good, but they were tart. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a stir, and I'm going to go ahead and taste it. Yep, definitely needs a little more of this peach syrup. And I like to use like natural sweetness whenever I can, instead of like using your white sugar. You certainly can use, white sugar, brown sugar, or, you know, monk fruit sweetener, whatever type of sweetener you like. But when I can fruits, I always can the juice as well, because I can always use that as a syrup or as a sweetener to other things. So since those strawberries were so tart, I went ahead and added in that peach syrup, and it was definitely a hit because everybody who had the fruit salad today said, wow, this is really, really good. So, and you didn't notice the tartness from the strawberries as much. But here I'm cutting up the cantaloupe, and this cantaloupe was wonderful. Super sweet, and it was super soft. So I'm glad that I went ahead and cut it up today, because it might have been like way too soft if I would have waited another day or two to get it cut up. But I'm just going to cut this up in bite-sized pieces as well, and I will put it in this fruit salad. And as you can see, sometimes my granddaughter is riding her bike back behind me. She's just making big circles around the house. But I cut a little piece and tasted it and said, wow, that was really good. So I cut another little piece and gave it to my granddaughter, because I'm not sure if she ever had cantaloupe or not, but this was the perfect one to let her try for the first time, to see if she liked it. I know that she likes berries, and I'm always getting berries: blackberries, raspberries, strawberries, blueberries, but and she loves watermelon. But I went ahead and gave her a piece of this cantaloupe, and now she definitely loves cantaloupe. Okay, guys, now I'm going to go ahead and make some sliders. I know I made some sliders not too long ago, but this is a staple that happens during baseball season. And like I said, my son is done playing baseball for about a month until fall ball starts, but him and my husband are still coaching two other teams. So they have a game this evening. So I'm going to go ahead and make up some sliders, and they can grab a few before they go, and they can have some more whenever they come back. And my son and his girlfriend and my granddaughter is here, so I'm just going to go ahead and make up some sliders. They are a crowd pleaser all the time. I'm going to make up a little bit different ones. I'm going to make up a ham and cheese slider, which I have made multiple times, but I'm also going to make a corned beef and cheese slider as well. Thought I would try something new, and it ended up being a hit. My baseball player son absolutely loved them. I love them, and my other son and his girlfriend like them. So they're a definite hit. So I'm glad I tried them, and I know that in the future I can definitely make them again. So I'm doing the double recipe as I always do. 12 is just not enough sliders for my family. So I have a 24 pack here. So I divided them into two separate ones. So I'm going to make a dozen of the ham and cheese, and I'm going to make a dozen of the corned beef and cheese sliders. So, and these are a favorite in the house, and they are so easy to make. So I do like to make them quite a bit in the summertime, just because they are quick and easy. And what's nice about sliders, you can use whatever you want. If you're a turkey family and like, turkey and cheese, or you want to put turkey and ham, sliders, you can put absolutely whatever you want in them. I try to make up some different ones so that they're not the same all the time. And they all tend to be winners. So I just don't think you can go wrong with making some sliders. So on this first one here, I'm just going to go ahead and put some ham and cheese. And this is just lunch meat that I got from the deli. It's ham off the bone, just your standard ham slices. And I'll usually put like a double row of ham, so 2 pieces of ham in each spot, and then I'll put a layer of cheese, and today I'm using provolone cheese. And then I will put another single layer of ham on top of this cheese. Oh, and I think I got here is the corned beef that I got, and I'm going to do this the same way. I'm using 2 slices of corned beef to cover the entire bottom, and then I will put a single overlapping layer of provolone, and then I'll put a single layer of corned beef on top before I put the tops of the buns on it. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and make up the sauce that goes on top of sliders. This is what makes them sliders. Um, I definitely would not skip this part. You will definitely feel like you're missing something. Otherwise, they just kind of be a plain sandwich. But for this sauce, I am using here 1.5 sticks of butter. I'm using more than the standard recipe because I am doubling this, the slider recipe. So I'm not quite doubling the sauce, but I did definitely put a little bit more in because for a dozen you're supposed to use a stick of butter, and I'm using about 1.5 sticks of butter for both of these. And then I'm going to go ahead and stick this in the microwave because we want to go ahead and melt that butter. And I'm going to go ahead and get the other ingredients out. We will need, for this recipe, we will need some salt and pepper, some Worcestershire sauce, some poppy seeds, some Dijon mustard, and salt and pepper. Minced onion. You definitely need some of those as well. And normally I put garlic powder in this, but I forgot on this day. But that's okay. It still turned out wonderful. And basically I'm just going to use like a tablespoon of the minced onion, a tablespoon of mustard, a tablespoon of poppy seed, a tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce, and then just some salt and pepper to taste. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and add the rest of the ingredients in. I'm going to add about a tablespoon of the minced onion and about a tablespoon of poppy seeds and about a tablespoon or two of Worcestershire sauce. I really love this addition in this sauce, so I'm not too concerned about putting a little bit too much in it. And then about a tablespoon of mustard. And I'm using Dijon mustard here. Dijon mustard is what the original recipe calls for, but you can use any type of mustard. If you don't have mustard, you could even use dried mustard if you'd like. But it adds a nice tanginess to it. And a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper. And then I will give this a really good stir. And then I will baste my sliders with it. And I like to use the brush and get all of the ingredients, like they kind of sink down to the bottom, like those minced onions, because it's, heavier than the melted butter. So I like to use the brush and make sure that I get a lot of those onions and get them evenly dispersed on all of the sliders before I go ahead and just dump the rest of the melted butter and the other seasonings along with it. But I definitely like to have those onions evenly dispersed. which is what I'm doing here. And then I will just go ahead and pour half onto one and half onto the other. And don't worry, whenever you bake these, it looks like a puddle of butter on the top, but whenever you bake this, it like soaks into the bread and the bread becomes like toasted. So it's not like a wet mess or anything like that. So, you don't need to worry about that. It will, dry out the buns being in the oven. And I just preheated my oven to 350 degrees, and then I just stick them in there for about 15 or 20 minutes. They're usually done at 15 minutes, so what I do is 15 minutes and then I turn off the burner or turn off the oven and just let them sit in there until we are ready to have them. And then that way they will stay a little bit warm. If everybody is not ready at this time to have sliders, they will just continue to stay warm inside the oven. And here are the finished sliders. They were done, like I said, in about 15 minutes. You're really waiting for everything to warm up and that cheese to melt, and basically that's it. So then whenever my one son and his girlfriend and my granddaughter came down that they were hungry, I went ahead and pulled them out of the oven, and I just figured I would use my large cutting board here and just kind of make it like a charcuterie board. So I went ahead and cut up all the sandwiches to separate them for easy grab. And then I'm just going to add a few other things to the board. And then I'm just going to set it on my dining room table and people can eat as they please. And if you let them sit, like I had mentioned, I let them sit in the oven even though the oven was turned off. I left them sit in there for a while till somebody was ready to have them. And then that makes it a lot easier to slice them. Because sometimes if you take them directly out of the oven and then you try slicing them, they kind of fall apart on you. So it's always best to go ahead and let them, sit a little bit, and then that way it's definitely easier to slice up. And they are still hot, so I keep burning my fingers. Okay, so there are my sliders. Ham and cheese and corned beef and cheese are what the two sliders are. And then I figured I would just go ahead and maybe put some veggies on here after I clean up the cutting board first. There's a lot of crumbs everywhere, so I'm going to wipe all the crumbs off, and then I'm going to go ahead and fill it up with some other things. Like I'm going to put some carrots, some cucumbers, because those are a favorite of my granddaughter and myself. We love raw cucumbers to snack on. So I went ahead and cut up some carrots and cucumbers, and then I figured I'd make a veggie dip in case anybody wanted to dip the carrots and cucumbers in. And then my son, who's home from college, he absolutely loves to snack on black olives. So I thought I will just put a bowl of black olives and he'll probably sit there and eat all of them, which is okay. But as you'll see in a moment, I thought I grabbed black olives, but I did not. I grabbed something else and didn't realize it till I opened it and started to strain it. And here is where I went ahead and grabbed a can of what I thought was olives out of my cabinet and grabbed a strainer and started to strain them, and then realized these aren't olives, these are black beans. So I put the can of black beans aside and went ahead back into my cabinet and grabbed some black olives. So I am going to have to figure out something to do with these black beans since I went ahead and opened a can of them up. Obviously, it must have been a mistake buying a can of black beans because I have my own home canned beans. I never buy any type of canned beans. So I totally must have picked them up by accident, thinking they were black olives, just looking at the picture on them or something. I have no idea. But I'll figure out something to do with them. I'll bring you guys along with me. Now, if you guys remember, a couple weeks ago I had a video on all the seasoning packets that I brought up from downstairs because I used up a whole bunch of seasoning packets, and there were a few left that I needed to go ahead and use, and this was one of them. It was a veggie dip mix um, that I remembered that I had that I needed to use up. So I went ahead and grabbed that instead of making the standard, ranch dip that I usually make. I remembered that I had that seasoning packet. So I went and grabbed that and grabbed some Greek yogurt and gave that a good stir. gave it a little taste, and realized it needed a little bit, um, it was a little tangy from the Greek yogurt. So what I went ahead and did was add just a little dollop of mayonnaise in there to kind of cut that tanginess from the yogurt out. And but the dip turned out really good. And you can see standing beside me is my 16-year-old son, the baseball player, came down, he smelled something, and his little hands reached in there and grabbed one of those corned beef and cheese um, sliders. And I should have left his commentary on here, because he was like, he said, "I'm in love. These are so good." And he just kept grabbing more and more. And there he was saying that all of those were his and that nobody else was allowed to have them. I told him, I said, "Nice try." But here I'm just adding a little dollop of mayonnaise, like I said, just to cut that tanginess of that dip down. That Greek yogurt was pretty tangy, and that the vegetable dip itself was mild. So I went ahead and added a little bit of mayonnaise to cut that tanginess out. And there you have it, folks. This was my quick and easy meal for this Saturday. My son and husband had to go for baseball, and I just made basically a charcuterie board platter. And I had two different kinds of sliders, some veggies, some dip, some olives, and of course the fruit salad that I made first.